From our Center for the Arts studio, this is Eagle's Eye. I'm your host, Allison Glass. Joining us today is Ashland University President Dr. Campo. Thank you for joining us today, Dr. Campo.
Absolutely.
What is your favorite thing about Ashland thus far?
You know, the community, the people, has really been our favorite thing. We've just been so welcomed by folks, but it's the little things too. We love seeing the horse and buggies in and around town. We like the farmers markets and getting out and meeting people that way. We got to the county fair, and I don't think I'd ever been to something like that in my life. And I'm sure now that I know it's actually just window dressing. It has nothing to do with selling pigs or raising cattle, but it's really just an excuse for people to get together and talk.
That is very true.
You know, so anyhow, the people have been great, and the entire community has been wonderful.
I'm so glad to hear that. What changes are you looking forward to implementing here?
Well, I think change is something that has to come from within. So we really need to know the community and really know what kinds of changes the community is looking for. But some of the things we've talked about, are things like diversifying the student body. So we want to look across the board and say, what about geographic diversity? Should we have more students from other states in and around the area? Should we have international students come? Should we have more Hispanic students, African American, Asian? And the answer is yes. You know, I think more and more students, faculty, all of us agree we need to diversify our student body. So that's certainly one of the things we want to look at. There's a lot of talk about online education as well. And so we want to look at the right way for us to implement online and really stretch out in that way, but to do it in a way that reflects who we are as an institution. So those are a couple of things. I think one last thing I'd add is we really are looking at ways to help with economic development of the town of Ashland itself. You know, we feel like the city and the university have had a great relationship in the past, but we want to be even more intentional about saying to the city, we want to serve you, we want to make you better, and we're hoping that they'll challenge us to do the same.
That's so great. How closely do you plan on working with Student Senate to address student concerns this year? You
know, Student Senate has been great to communicate to us and let us know what the issues are. And so we do want to continue to work closely with them and really be upfront about the things we can change, the things we want to change, and the things that probably we won't be able to change, at least in the short term. But we're also trying to get out to students more directly. Student Senate does a great job of representing students and polling students and surveying them, but we're trying to at least once a week, whenever we're here, to get to students where they are. So we walk the campus, we go to Convo and meet with students there eating, and we have this magic wand quiz where we say, if we hand you a magic wand, and you could just change one thing about the institution, what would it be and why? And so we've been recording these and putting them together and trying to make some changes initially, and then of course looking more broadly. So we want to do both. We want to work directly with Student Senate, but we also want to get directly to students to get a really broad feel of what students need and what their concerns are.
That's great. I love the magic wand quiz. That is
students like it too.
That's incredible.
And when I tell them, you realize this is just for play for now. They're not always happy, but it's been good.
We have a question from senior James Coyne. He asked, how do you plan on recommitting to that old tagline, accent on the individual?
Well, I love the tagline and we love the motto. And I think what I've been asking is, what does that mean? So what does that mean at the admissions? How does that play into our career services? What does accent on the individual mean in individual classes? So we're really working to quantify that. So I'd say in the next year, we're going to see some publications that literally talk about that. We do this, and here's how we do it. So from food services to recreation to curricular and co-curricular, these are the ways that accent on the individual find their way into the ebb and flow of the life of the institution. So we're really excited about that element. Almost every institution talks about student-centered and directing their work towards students, but at Ashland it really is different. Students tell me all the time about a faculty member or a staff member or even a peer that really changed their lives. So we want to quantify that and make sure that people understand what we mean when we say accent on the individual.
Okay, and this question comes from junior Joey Beretta. He asked, with the expansion into online education, how will Ashland maintain its liberal arts tradition?
And I think one of the things we're looking at is not just saying we're going to apply online education across the board, but really understanding how does online fit our overall strategic plan. So, our commitment to liberal arts is part of our broader commitment as a university. We're a comprehensive university with a liberal arts core, and I think more than anything what we want to say is we want to do it with excellence. We see online education as really just a different way to deliver education. There are a lot of students who want to come to us but can't come to campus, so online is this opportunity both in the liberal arts and in professional schools to give those students that opportunity.
Okay, well that is great. And how will you use social media to stay connected or more connected with your students here at Ashland?
Well, I have to tell you that I'm in a generation where social media is very different. We know it's an important tool for communication, but I'm not sure exactly what a tweet really is, and so we're working through some of that with staff and others. But we do want to communicate. That's one of the things we've been saying. We want to get out and know what people are saying about Ashland. We want to make Ashland better all of the time, so we certainly want to have those discussions. So I am out there. I'm on Facebook. I am tweeting the best that I can, and trying to stay more connected with students that way, because it's great because I'm getting feedback now in ways that I wouldn't get otherwise. I'd get emails perhaps from time to time. The occasional student would come by and see me, but I think now because of social media, I'm able to tap into more of what the student concerns are, what they're praising on campus, and what they'd like to see changed.
Now I have seen that you are on Facebook.
Okay.
Have you gotten any comments from students about being on Facebook, or any messages from them yet?
Quite a few, actually.
Really?
Yes, students have been responding to particular posts and giving me their feedback, and very often it's a couple of words here or there, but it's been good. It kind of helps me understand where students are, and a lot of alums too. So folks who are all over the world, they'll hear that I'm traveling to the West Coast perhaps, and they'll say, "Hey, that's great. Can you maybe meet us for a little reception here or there?" So that's been really fun to see how alums have been plugged into social media, and you know this better than I do. It's just this way of finding people you had no idea that had a connection to the institution, so it's really terrific.
It definitely is, and especially with the alumni, it allows you to stay connected in a world that we might not necessarily, everyone's so separated.
That's right.
So social media and media in general, which is what we're doing here,
yes,
allows us to stay so connected to each other.
I agree, and I think it's really finding that balance, right?
Yeah. And I think that's great that you're using social media.
Thank you.
Fred Finks didn't really use social media that much, so.
Well, talk to my wife a little bit about it, because I don't know that she's so thrilled. She said, never knew you were that attracted to Facebook. And I said, I'm just trying to keep up with all the responses, but it's actually been good. It's been really good. I've enjoyed it.
Let's talk more about Student Senate. So
good.
You're being more involved as Student Senate. You're trying to talk more with students. What things do you particularly want to address with Student Senate? Right.
Well, Student Senate has made it clear that they realize that Ashland is changing, and part of that change is reflected in some of the layoffs that have occurred on campus. They've been concerned about that, and we've been really direct to say that we have a commitment to excellence, and with these changes we know that we're going to have to continue to look and ensure that we're not degrading the student experience, because the reality is the reality. It is expensive to have full-time faculty teaching in small classes. But that's who Ashland's been. Mm-hmm. So we're not out to change that. We're not out to say, well, we're going to have lecture halls with 200 students, and students now are going to be required to take online classes. Those are some of the things that very often people can say when someone's new on campus. Who is this guy? What's he bringing to the institution? What is his intent? What's his agenda? And I've said from the beginning, my agenda is to make Ashland better. I'm here to serve the institution. And so really getting to know Ashland is the best way to do that. And so one of the things that Student Senate has said is, just communicate with us. Tell us what you're going to be doing with class sizes, with the core. As you move forward, we're hiring a new provost, so that's an important piece as well. How will this person reflect the institutional commitment, both to the liberal arts and to the professional programs? Mm-hmm. So I think from my perspective, one of the things that I've seen about Ashland is it's really well known in this region. People in Cleveland and Columbus, for the most part, if you bring up Ashland, they know us. When you start moving outside of those areas, we're not really well known. And I don't think that was always the case. I think Ashland was better known in places in the East, and I think there were students and alums who sort of kept the Ashland name and the institutional priorities and events sort of top of mind. Mm-hmm. So we're really looking for ways to push nationally and regionally who we are as an institution, and I know that Student Senate will even help us with those issues as well.
Okay, well, we have a question about your inauguration.
Oh, great.
So that's coming up next week.
It is.
Are you excited? What are your thoughts about the inauguration so far?
Well, I really appreciate those elements of the institution that bring us together. One of the things that we're really looking at is how do we come together even more, because tradition makes any school great, and we have such great traditions at Ashland. So we want to look at traditions, and even though the inauguration is only part of that, it is coming together as a community and as a campus. So we're going to close offices, we're going to invite students. We feel like it's important for us all to come together and say, because it's really not about inaugurating a person, it's really about inaugurating a new administration, right? And this whole idea of what is this new era for Ashland? What are we really investing in? It's actually called an investiture, is another word they use for this. And so what is that investment? Because it's not just an investment in me, of course, it's an investment in a vision of our future. And so I think that's really going to be fun to have folks come. The former Attorney General of the United States, John Ashcroft, is our featured speaker. And to have him come and challenge us, that's one of the things he's going to be doing, is challenging me personally as a president as we look at higher education and how Ashland will speak into the traditions of the past and the future. So that's always great. I'm looking forward to the homecoming football game, of course, and all the events. I think I'm looking forward to this banana split thing, but because I haven't done it before, if it has to do with food, I'm happy. So that part I know I'll really like. But when I'm hearing about creative ways to eat banana splits, something just tells me that I'm going to get roped into something that is going to be very embarrassing. But having family here and friends will be wonderful too, but I think more than anything it's having the community together and being together in the chapel and really focusing on where we're headed as an institution really will be rewarding.
Yes. That's all that we have time for during this episode. Thank you again,
Thanks,
Dr.
Allison.
Campo,
It was
for
fun.
being with us today, and we will see you next time on Eagle's Eye.